All right, it looks like we're good this time. What's up, everybody? MMA Casual here, and we're officially doing a tier list. I've seen a few videos like this, and I think they're pretty cool. Not so techy, so getting the studio together. Got Rocky and Mike Tyson with me, setting it up, but let's get started. And for the sake of time, we're only doing the first three rows. You should be seeing my screen here. So we're going to start off. We got the GOATs, we got the A+, the A tier, the B+ tier, the B tier, and of course, the CM Punk tier. When we get to CM Punk, we're stopping. Starting off, Demetrius Johnson. I thought it was appropriate. This is in no specific order, but I love that he was first because he's going straight to the GOAT tier. There is no one like that man in the flyweight division. There's no one like that man, I think, in the history of the UFC. He's on to the one now, becoming a champion in a different promotion. And they almost had to close that down, that division in the UFC, because there was no competition. And even though, Dana White didn't feel like that man was a champ to promote, real fans know he's the GOAT. All right, so next up, Israel Adesanya, another GOAT, or will be a GOAT, better said, because I'm gonna put him in the A+ tier. I think he's the second second best middleweight champion of all time. Anderson Silva, of course, coming before him, but a little left to do in his career before he becomes a GOAT. So I think he's safe in the A+ tier. And of course, guys, if you disagree with any of my picks, let me know in the comment and hit that subscribe button. Michael Bisping. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Michael Bisping. I like him more as a commentator than I do a fighter, so I guess I'm showing a little bias here. He did become champ. He was an underdog for that fight. With his reign and his performances, as far as skill, career, etc., B+. I think it's safe. A lot of people might not like that, but I think it's pretty accurate. Next, DC. So double champ. Light heavyweight division and the heavyweight division. He just had his kryptonite, and that was John Jones. Goes against Stipe. He takes that loss to retire at the end in their trilogy fight. I have to put him in the A+ tier. Again, he was in the sport for a while. His wrestling was as dominant as it could be. He proved to everyone that that's probably the best skill set and specialty to have in the UFC, and along with other guys like Cejudo. But I think it's safe to say, even though he lost to John Jones twice, you got to put him in the A+ tier, but he's definitely not the GOAT. Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz, he might be the best bantamweight fighter ever. I'm going to put him A, great champ, could have had a better career. Some tough losses he's taken. But I think it's safe. I just think skill set and career, he's safe at the A. Nate Diaz. So, Nate Diaz is great. A lot of fun. A lot of history in the UFC, but we're going career and skill set. At the end of the day, towards the end of his career, this guy was a huge draw, fighting McGregor. He had that fight against Masvidal. They started giving him big fights because he has a huge fan base. But in reality, I know he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a hell of a boxer, but we got to put my friend in the B tier. You could debatably put him in the B+ tier, but I'm just setting the tone, and controversy is controversy, and it's gonna get me some views. So I gotta put Nate Diaz in the B tier. TJ Dillashaw. He had a great stretch in the bantamweight division. Of course, his drug usage is what mostly affected his career. The guy's a legend, though, and if you ask me, I put him in the A tier. I think that's a safe A tier position. One of the best to ever do it in the bantamweight division as well. Junior Dos Santos, straight to B+. Guy's a living legend, but there's not much to say about him. I just think he's one of those guys who was great for a short period of time, good for an extended period of time, and then that's all we got from him. John Jones. I don't think we have to say much about that individual. Regardless of what you feel about the man as an individual, as a husband, as a father, whatever. He's the GOAT. He's the best of all time. And like I said, I think Demetrius Johnson comes in a close second, and there's not much to say. Leon Edwards, some more bias showing on my behalf. Leon Edwards, I think he's good. He's proven himself, especially against that second fight again. That third fight, sorry, against Usman, where he outclassed him, because that second fight, I'm not gonna call it a fluke, but he landed that kick late into the fight. He was losing for 24 minutes basically. Um, Other than that, there was a lot of absence during COVID from him, but he's a fantastic striker. He's proven that he is a champion and he deserves to be a champion. So with that being said, I'm going to put him in. It's just not enough for me. I'm putting him B plus tier. It is what it is. Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans, great career, great fighter. A lot of guys who train with him have a lot to say about him, and I think that's pretty cool. As far as his championship career, I mean, he didn't have any defenses. I'm putting him at B plus, and yeah, this is a rough tier ranking. I think it's people are gonna disagree with me just because I have Cruz and Dillashaw A, and I have some of these legends right here in B plus, but it is what it is. Uriah Faber, man, he was one of the GOATs in WEC. He had quite the career. He was just that guy. Always a bridesmaid, never the bride. He couldn't wrap around that UFC belt, and that does hurt his legacy. With that being said, skill set was great. He's joining the legends in the B plus tier. It's just, I have to. Justin Gaethje, man, I love that guy. And now looking at my list, I can't put him over B plus, that's for sure. Justin Gaethje, another guy who I don't think will ever get his hands on the gold. He's a brawler. He's fun to watch. I'm excited to see his upcoming fight against Poirier. It's the second time they go around. He's joining these guys in the B plus tier. He might, with how I have this lined up, it might even be justified if he goes to B tier. And you know what? I'm doing it. Justin Gaethje, B tier. Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt was so good for such a short amount of time, and his performance against Dominic Cruz said a lot about him. But unfortunately, the guy has proven to have a glass jaw, and he has proven to us that he does not know when to walk away. So with that being said, even though he's been a champion in the UFC, B tier. All right, Gustafsson. Oof, I like this gentleman a lot. He's given John Jones the biggest wars that John Jones has probably ever had. But that's not enough to put you anywhere other than the B plus tier. I think skill set, he has it, and he has a lot of talent. And like I said, I think he's given John Jones, if anyone has, the biggest run for his money in their fights. But that's all I got to say about that. Dan Hooker, just because he gave us a hell of a performance this last weekend against Jalen Turner, I think he deserves to be on this list other than going CM Punk level. After Dustin Poirier, he hasn't been the same. Yes, he's fought some big deals. Let's be clear. Like when you lose to Islam Makhachev, I don't think, someone could just say your career is garbage. However, I still think that he's somewhat on the decline, and now after this injury, I don't think there's much left in his career. With that being said, the Hangman's fun to watch, but we're going B tier. Yes, I'm telling you, this is a tough list, and I feel like I'm not contradicting myself, but it's just like the criteria is tough because it's skill set and career mixed in. Some of these guys, their longevity wasn't there, so. Donald Cerrone's another one. Man, can never get himself with the belt wrapped around himself. Definitely a Hall of Famer. He has the most bonuses in the UFC. He's up there. I believe he's second now after Jim Miller passed him with the amount of finishes he has in his career. With that being said, I think we got to give this legend some respect, and because of that, I'm gonna put him B plus. Gilbert Burns, skill wise, I have no issue putting him with the B plus guys. Recently he's been a savage, even though he lost to Bilal Muhammad. But honestly, great career as of now. I don't think he'll ever touch gold, but he's up there, man, and he's taking out some big names, so I'm putting him there at the B plus level. B plus is gonna be those guys who are great, but they were never elite. And I think that's what we're getting at here. Really great fighters just never were elite. Colby Covington, I would love to give this guy an A, and if he had beat Kamaru Usman ever and still have been a reigning champ, he'd probably be an A. But because he's never touched gold, I can't put him over any of these gentlemen right here, and he's going straight to B plus. We'll make it quick. Tyron Woodley, this one's tough because if Tyron Woodley had a better descent in his career, he'd be an A for sure. Let's be very clear. Tyron Woodley had one of the most successful welterweight careers. Okay, but he just declined rapidly. Just his demise was awful. And then I'm not gonna count the boxing, but he did not age in the world of MMA gracefully. And with that, I'm putting him at the B plus, just because again, when he was the welterweight champ, nobody had an answer for Tyron Woodley. Let's be clear. Robbie Lawler, man, I love that 38-second knockout the other day. Gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. Robbie Lawler's a legend. Okay, let's be very clear on that. I think he finishes his career at 30-16. At the end of the day, like I said, he's a guy who entered the UFC when it wasn't what it was today, in the sense of there was a lot of guys who would come in with their own specialties and their own focus, and you could be successful. You could be a judo fighter and you could be successful. You could come in just as a wrestler and not know how to throw hands. You could be successful. You could be a kickboxer, Muay Thai, whatever it may be. And then we've gone into this era where everybody's good at everything now because people are training mixed martial arts rather than having, a background and then coming into the UFC like it used to be. Anyway, the guy's a legend. Unfortunately, even though he's been champ and he's done a lot for the sport. Now, you know what? Just because he was champ, if he was never champ, I'd put him in B, believe it or not. But just because he had some gold, I'm putting him at B plus. And I know there's a little inconsistency there, because then why didn't I give it to Cody Garbrandt? But Cody Garbrandt, if you ask me, was good for a very short period of time. Yoel Romero, that guy's just a freak of nature, real freak of nature. Puts on some fun fights. Old now. I love him because he's Cuban, but I think he's a safe B. I think his career wasn't enough to put him anywhere else, and I think that's fair to put him with someone like Hooker, Gaethje, Diaz. I think it's fair. Oof, this one's rough. And I want to know, what do you guys think? Am I going straight to CM Punk, or am I going to be... he had so much hype around them. So much freaking hype around them. And yeah, I think it's safe to put him at B. He's been disappointing. He had a lot of hope, and he started training with Hamza recently. I thought he was going to come in and get something done, but he declined rapidly. He was not what everyone wanted him to be, and yeah. All right, Valentina Shevchenko. I think it's safe. We have to put her in the A plus. Yeah, I'm gonna put her A plus. She's one of the most dominant women ever, and we've had very dominant women. A. Changed my mind. I just saw who's an A plus. Yeah, so she has those losses from Nunes. Now lost to Grasso. Great champion. Very successful. I think she's gonna be very successful moving forward as well. I think she'll get the belt back. I think she'll end up as an A plus, but yeah, I think she's safe at A. And I feel like I didn't give enough explanation for Darren Till, but whatever. You guys let me know what you feel about Darren Till. That guy's so disappointing. Kelvin Gastelum. This one's easy for me. I think I'm going straight to B. He's a gatekeeper at this point. He's always fought in the wrong weight class. He should have been fighting in the welterweight division long in his career. He was successful either way, and that just shows how good he is. However, he just can't hang with real middleweights. He's a hell of a gatekeeper, though. I like that guy a lot. Great fighter. Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is great. No title defenses. He did beat Izzy. Technically, that was a title defense. I'm putting him at B plus. I think that's safe. Max Holloway. I'm putting Max at A. He is one of the best featherweights ever. He's never going to be the best featherweight ever. He has some tough competition in Volk and Jose Aldo. But the guy's a living legend. If he would have beat Volk in any of those fights, then we could have a different conversation. Maybe even put him in the A plus tier. But right now he's the second best, and he continues to fight, and he's one of the best brawlers we have, and he's very entertaining. He has a long history in the UFC. But with that being said, he stands next to Dominic Cruz, TJ Dillashaw, Shevchenko, and he stands there. Glover Teixeira, he has taken out some crazy names, but he's also taken a lot of losses in his career. It was cool to see him come back to the belt, win it at 40 years old. You know, he lost it right after, but he's had a hell of a career, but I put him in the B+ tier. Derek Lewis is just a lot of fun. He should have never fought for the belt when he fought DC. Let's be honest, it's just because he has some crazy knockouts. I think he's very close, if not the one who has the most knockouts in the UFC. With that, he gets a lot of respect. He's the man. He's going to the B tier. And let's just be clear. Look at that B tier. That B tier is filled with great fighters. That's not what we're saying. But there's a difference between great fighters, extremely good fighters, and then I want to say A and up is just elite. Like there's not much like them in their division. Alistair Overeem, my God, it's hard to just decide based off MMA, because you could go back into glory days and stuff, and this guy was a monster. He had a very long career and was very successful for very long. With that being said, I'm not gonna add his freaking before USADA days, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to take those days into account, and I'm just going to do strictly UFC. And with that, I think he has good company in that B tier. Amanda Nunes. I don't know if anyone's going to agree, or a lot of people are going to agree. Amanda Nunes is a GOAT, one of the greatest of all time. She is the best female fighter of all time. The name she's taken out, how long she's been dominant. She's a double champ. Yes. Will she lose to dudes? Of course. However, Amanda Nunes is the best female fighter of all time, and she's going to be for a long period of time. So I think she deserves that GOAT status up there with Demetrius Johnson and John Jones. Rose Namajunas. Rose is going B+ tier. I like Rose a lot. Rose was a good champ, two-time champ, came up on the Ultimate Fighter. I remember that season very clearly with other legends in the strawweight division. I think she deserves B+ tier. If she was a little more successful as champ, and what I mean by that, a longer reign, maybe I'd have her in A. But again, that's a tough tier to crack right now with the names I have there and with the individuals I've put in B+. So I gotta leave her at B+. Holly Holm. Holly Holm, if we're talking strict kickboxing, she shoots up to A+, but we're talking about mixed martial arts, and she's had a good career. She beat Ronda Rousey, but other than that, there's not much to say about Holly Holm, and she fights tonight, so I'm going to be checking that out later. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. Joanna, I can't pronounce her last name, so I'm not even going to try. She had a great career too. She came in, she took the strawweight division by storm. She was there for a bit. She went to war a couple of times. Extremely entertaining fights, skill levels there. I think it's only fair to put her with this great company in the B+ tier. Ronda Rousey. So this one's hard because Ronda Rousey did so much for this sport, and she was so dominant. And then just crashed and burned. But in the time that she was fighting, she really was A tier. If it's when she finished her career, I'd go down to even almost CM Punk level. She'd be B. But just because of the streak she had, and she was taking out everybody in under a minute with her judo and her arm bar that nobody had an answer for, I'm going to put her in A because I think she deserves that respect. If it wasn't for her, there's no women's MMA. Dustin Poirier. This one, a lot of people are not going to like my inconsistency with it, but Dustin Poirier has debatably the best resume of all time in the lightweight division. He got himself with interim gold. He was never champ for Rio. He's fought a few times for the championship, and he always comes up short. I think he's an elite journeyman at this point, but I have to put him in the A tier. And I guess that's a little biased. A lot of people are not going to like that, but I love to hear your comments, suggestions, and your concerns with how I'm ranking this. All right. BJ Penn. BJ Penn, man, this is almost disrespectful. Was champ of two divisions. I believe it was two. It wasn't simultaneous. He was a legend to the sport. Still is. my issue with him was also just he took a lot of losses, man. It was like back in the day, the competition was a little different. I don't know how successful BJ Penn would be if he was fighting today. With that being said, I'm putting him at B plus. Again, just gonna get ripped in the comments. Matt Hughes, oof, this guy was a monster for quite some time. However, I don't think he'd be successful in this day and age at all. And he has some notable wins. You know, he took out a goat or two. So, but I'm putting him in the B tier. I think that's where he really belongs. Chuck Liddell. All right. Chuck Liddell was the man. Again, I guess it was just different times. I really should have had like a rubric or clear criteria for what I was doing here. Chuck Liddell. I'm putting him in A tier. He was champ. He had defenses. There was no one like him. His rivalry with Tito Ortiz was unmatched. I'm putting him in the A. I don't care. We got another one, guys. We got another one. Boom. George St. Pierre. He's also one of the greatest of all time. Definitely the best welterweight of all time to date. Kamaru Usman definitely on his tail, and he would have been close if he beat Leon, but there's no one like George St. Pierre. His psyche going into the fights, just he's a class act. The people he's taken out, I think he's one of the first real guys who was just so good at everything. There was nothing that George St. Pierre could not do, similar to John Jones and Demetrius Johnson. I mean, look at that GOAT list. That GOAT list is that GOAT tier is just filled with people who have no holes in their game. So yeah, the GOAT. Henry Cejudo, double champ, Olympian. Another guy with minimal holes in his game. I think you could almost have him at GOAT, but since I have Adesanya and DC down here, he's joining that A+ list. I think the GOATs are going to be my top 5 ever. I think that's what we'll end up doing. But Henry Cejudo, I mean, there's not much to say other than that guy's one of the greatest of all time. Anderson Silva. Oh, I found another one. And what I mean by another one, we got to GOAT. Yeah, Anderson Silva, the longest ever title reign as far as fights goes. His style was unmatched. Nobody had an answer for him for a long time. And yeah, I don't think he went out graciously, but he definitely was a problem when he was fighting in the UFC. And I wish he was a little less cocky when he fought Chris Weidman, because I think his career would have been very different. But it is what it is. He's still one of the greatest of all time. Tony Ferguson. Another one who couldn't get his hands around gold, but Tony Ferguson had quite the career. The reason he's going to B+ and not A is because of his last 5 fights. When you say CTE, Tony Ferguson screams it. I think if anyone cares for him, they'll have him stop fighting, because it's embarrassing at this point, and it's almost sad to see the decline and the damage he's with taking. And yeah, I got to put him in the B+ tier, man. Francis Ngannou. You know, I wasn't huge on Francis before, but he proved to be champ. He has 2 defenses, I believe. Gone to PFL now. Going to go box. We found out last week. Skill set's there. Definitely a lot of improvements from when he first started in the UFC. With that being said, I'm going to give this man A tier. That might be a little debated, but I'm giving him A tier. Jose Aldo. Jose, like it or not, he's going to A+. So what if he took a 13-second loss to your precious Conor McGregor? Jose Aldo was dominant for a decade. The UFC, Strikeforce, you name it. The man was a monster. And, you know, WEC. And yeah, I think after they didn't give him a rematch for the featherweight belt, I thought it was really disrespectful because he deserved it. And to be honest with you, Jose Aldo had a great second run when he had that final run in the bantamweight division, and he got real close, but he got outclassed during his last fight. But a career of a lifetime, a real Hall of Famer. A+ for Jose Aldo, no doubt. Brian Ortega. I like Brian Ortega a lot. He's kind of quirky and like cringy, really. He's good. I don't think he's great. I think his jiu-jitsu's sick, but I don't ever see him getting gold wrapped around him. He's going B tier. Yair Rodriguez just took that loss against Volk. Skill wise, definitely a B plus. I think he's more skilled than most of the guys there in that B division. I think that's fair to say, even though there's some inconsistencies down there I see now. Interim champ, and there's still more for him to do. He's taken out. His resume is pretty sick when I was looking at it the other day, so I'm giving him a B plus tier. Stipe, I'm going to give A plus. He's debatably the best heavyweight of all time. He's coming back against John Jones at the end of the year. Some holes in his game, but he's fantastic. Again, the heavyweight division is one that's had a lot of turnover while he was around. He kept that belt for a while, so I think it's safe to say A plus. Oof, this one's tough. Khabib Nurmagomedov, undefeated fighter. Yes, he fought a lot of trash cans, but even when he got to the top, he was taking out names like Dustin, Gaethje. I think I would have loved to see him fight Charles, but that never happened. Even Islam, even though he would have never done that, I think we would have had a better gauge of what he was doing. He beat Conor. Man, this guy's great, but I don't know if I could make him a GOAT. So I think Khabib Nurmagomedov goes to the A plus tier. You heard it from me. Kamaru Usman, second best welterweight of all time. I think if he beat Leon Edwards, like I mentioned earlier, he's trailing George St. Pierre, but just that knockout loss, and then to come back from that, and he didn't come back like GSP would have. After GSP's losses, he came back and he dominated. So Kamaru Usman is gonna be an A plus tier either way. I think he's been so dominant for so long, and he's taken out anybody who's been put in front of him at least once. So I think it's safe to say A plus for him. Jorge Masvidal, love the guy, Miami native, but Jorge wouldn't be getting the fights he got fighting Kamaru twice, fighting Kobe, or fighting anybody if he didn't have that Darren Till knockout, which opened up the Ben Askren fight, which ultimately made him who he is today. That flying knee, which was beautiful, one of the best knockouts in UFC and MMA history. However, because of his fights besides those knockouts, and he did beat Nate, I think his prime was a little cut short, and he wasn't up there with the elite guys, so I have to put Jorge in the B tier. There's some legends in there. It is what it is. All right. Conor McGregor. Conor. Believe it or not, Conor's going right here in the A tier. So Conor McGregor had one of the best featherweight runs of all time. Phenomenal striker. Legend to the sport. Did so much for the UFC. But once he beats Aldo, there's not much to this guy. Okay, he becomes featherweight champ. He gets to go up, which I disagree with. I don't like when we just give somebody double champ status. You know what? I guess just because he was double champ and the first, I have to put him in A plus. That's fair. I'll give him that. He did beat Eddie Alvarez, and that was his masterclass performance, if you ask me. But other than that, he's never won in the lightweight division. So I do have a problem when you're calling someone like a GOAT or one of the best to ever do it to a guy who's a champion in a division he only has one win in. Conor McGregor has one win as a lightweight, and it was for the belt. Explain that. Lost to Poirier twice in that division, lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, I'm sorry. If you told me that after he became champ, he beat a few people, retained the belt, or even then, if they would have made him fight a few fighters before getting a title shot. But I know how the double champ stuff goes, and I disagree with it. I'm going to make a video on it later. But Conor McGregor, I'll give him an A plus because of the double champ. But to be honest, he's an A for me. Brock Lesnar. All right. Brock Lesnar's not really an MMA fighter. He's a big guy who's good at wrestling and always belonged in the WWE. But with that being said, he was champ, and his size helped him and his strength while he was in there early in the UFC days. I'm putting him as a B plus. I think that's fair. I don't think I have to argue that. Korean Zombie. Man, a legend. Done a lot for the sport as well. Never saw gold. Straight to B. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I love that guy. I think he has such a fun fight style. I love his stance. His karate's a lot of fun. But my friend's going to the B tier as well. Volkanovski. I think I'm almost comfortable putting him up here in the GOAT status. I'm almost comfortable. I think he's right there with Aldo in the featherweight division, but he's been so dominant and really like 1-2 more wins. I hope he kills Ilia Topuria, even though I really like that guy. But I think Vote eventually ends up at the GOAT. But for now, I'm gonna have him here with this company. It's very close though. I think Volk ends up on this top 5 right here. All right, Robert Whitaker. Oh my God. Oh no. All right, Robert Whitaker. That guy literally would be unstoppable if Adesanya didn't exist. I think he would have had a super long reign in the middleweight division. Unfortunately, Adesanya does exist, and he's taken some tough losses, but he beats everybody else. We saw him lose to Dricus du Plessis, so I know he's on the decline in his career, but everything he's done, I got to put him right here in that A tier. And then I said we're stopping. We're getting to CM Punk. There's a few people here who I don't even know why they're here, but whatever. CM Punk I'll just put here. And, we got Blades, Costa, Anderson, Stevens. We got a few guys in here, but I really don't want to rank them. And for the sake of time, we're done. Let me know what other tier lists you want me to do. You might hate it. This is new to me, guys, and I got to get a little better with my mic work. I get a little caught up, and I need to have a clear criteria. But with that being said, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, tell me how dumb you think I am, and have a good one.